All right, everyone. Angela Merkel had a speech. I think this was almost a week ago now. I kept bouncing it because there was better news to cover. But now, other than BitChute exclusive topics, like I'm swamped with those. I got 5 or 6 lined up, but actually was scraping the bottom of the barrel with this. You got to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find Merkel in the scrapings in order to get the third video for the day for YouTube. As you can tell, YouTube, as far as interesting subjects, not quite as much of a priority anymore as BitChute is, ironically. Mainly because you can't talk about a lot of things on the platform without people breathing down your neck constantly or algorithmically demoting you. It's really taking the creativity and fun out of a platform that was very creative and fun. Merkel was giving a speech, and she's like, well, we need to stop freedom of expression, otherwise Western civilization will fall. The insinuation was that civilized, Western, developed, free society, like liberal society, could not weather differences of opinion or actual spirited debate over certain issues. And this is a uniquely sort of Merkelite left-wing German thing. I know she gets cast as a conservative. Okay, fiscally speaking, she might like the auto industry. That does not make her a conservative or a traditionalist in any rational sense. She's far left when it comes to cultural issues. And I don't mean far left as in like, well, let's all get along. People should be able to like marry who they want, do what they want. That's the hippie trippy sort of libertarian side of leftist civics is fine. Problem is, then you get someone like Merkel who thinks you should be thrown in jail for saying the wrong thing or voting for the wrong party or wearing the wrong colors on the wrong day or using the wrong Teutonic symbol on your clothing. Angela Merkel saying essentially in no uncertain terms, well, in a free society, if it's to continue existing, we need to stop certain kinds of speech. Speech which harms the dignity of others. Well, my goodness, how fucking subjective can you get? Harms the dignity of others. So in other words, if you say, well, I think that people under 18 shouldn't vote. Well, that's ageism. You're harming the dignity of everyone under 18, you fucking stupid Nazi bigot. You should be thrown in the gulag. What if you say, hey, I choose to only date members of my same race, or in some cases, only members of another race? Oh my God, you're such a bigot for making that choice. What if you said, well, no, I will not suck the cock, I will not eat the bugs? Oh my God, what a fucking Third Reichist. It sounds hyperbolic, but you actually see this argument being made. Now, I know Merkel herself isn't making the argument, but she and Trudeau and some of the people in her general in-crowd of post-liberal liberals, as you may call them, postmodernists, literally want to prosecute people for, in some cases, just saying they disagree with a government's decisions with regards to immigration. The idea is this. When you get to a point where a state, which functions with a monopoly of force, a monopoly on the use of force and power, when a state is preventing conversations from even taking place, there can be only one reasonable inference. The state has become tyrannical and fears that its tyranny will be brought down by having a debate. Usually it will fixate, like you see in the West right now, it'll fixate on the most fanatic elements of society and use that as a scapegoat to muzzle speech. But it's always a ruse. That's not what it's afraid of. Merkel is not afraid of the 10 people in Germany that are actually National Socialists. She's not afraid of them. They are a tiny minority. When you see some group of hooligans with skinheads, some 20 people, 30 people march down the street, do you honestly think Angela Merkel, where a single squad of German soldiers could wipe them off the face of the earth, is worried about those groups? No. Name an actual terroristic event that was held by them. No, I think that those are held by other groups of people. Merkel never talks as though she's afraid of them. In fact, brings more of them in with open arms. Here's the ruse. The ruse is this. She's afraid of free speech. She's afraid of actual liberalism. That's what these people fear. They're afraid that, especially in the era of the internet, independent individuals will continuously advocate, as they had for the last 15 fucking years, for independence of thought and independence of speech, and they will demand more and more concessions from an increasingly corporatized, increasingly monopolistic, rich person-run internet. That's part one. And number two, as an offshoot of that, support, including in the grassroots sense, we've seen this taken away from independent candidates. For people from third parties, or outside parties, you'd call them maybe in most European systems, and for independently running individuals who can beat establishment political candidates and seize the means of power by crowdfunding. The economic and free speech structure of the internet is what worries the neoliberal. It is what worries the so-called conservative. These millionaires and billionaires with their political power are worried about a bunch of actual liberals having a second enlightenment and kicking them to the curb. They're afraid of us taking over and fundamentally transforming society and creating the utopia that they dangle over people's heads in order to create authoritarian dystopia while always making them promises. Hey, give the government a little more power. We'll make things better. Give us a little more power. We'll give you a little more welfare, and then poverty will go away. We'll give you a little more disarmament, and crime will go away. We'll give you a few more refugees, and unemployment will go. Lack of production will go away. We'll do this, that, and the other thing. Give us more power. Pony up. What they're terrified of is that people will naturally recognize this hasn't worked because they've been doing it for a number of centuries and it hasn't worked. And that they will say, well, why are we doing this continuously? We're going to try something else. And forming a more constitutionalist style of system which they no longer can maneuver in. They thrive on the misuse and abuse of power. Angela Merkel is a tyrant. Angela Merkel has people thrown in prison for disagreeing with her regime's immigration policy. She has people thrown in jail for making the wrong symbol on a notebook while ignoring actual legitimate crime. This is an illegitimate political regime that she's running. She is an illegitimate leader. Under any proper liberal auspices, she would have already been declared a pariah, and she would no longer be recognized as the legitimate governess of Germany in the first place. She would be kicked to the curb. She has no respect for liberal values. She has no respect for freedom of expression. She has no respect for freedom of religion. She has no respect for freedom of association. She's a fucking Soviet. That's essentially what she is. She should be cast aside. The same with Trudeau and Macron and all of these other fucking losers. They should all be cast out. But they rule things right now. They've got the power, so they can throw people in prison for suggesting that, if you're within their territory. Thank goodness I'm in a country that hasn't quite fallen to that sort of, bless you, authoritarianism yet. I can actually speak my mind here. You can't in Germany. You get arrested for some of the things I probably say on a day-to-day basis. Hey, I think people should be able to associate with who they want. Taxes are too high. Immigration can be controlled in any way a state wants to control it, and it doesn't magically make it bigotry. Woohoo, what a fanatic platform. Merkel thinks so, because Merkel wants to bring in slaves and toy around with the economy and pal around with her millionaire friends. Oh my goodness, to tackle climate change. Oh, look at these Nazis over there with their SUVs. What a fucking goofball. Angela Merkel's going to tell people what freedom of expression should be like. Sadly, there are a lot of governments that agree with her. You know, in the third world for the most part. Yeah, Saddam Hussein would be a great friend of her. He would have loved hanging around with Angela Merkel. They probably would have been best friends. They probably would have tortured people together. That's about all. Peace out.